Streeble here. I wanted to gamecast HuK's game versus Marine King. We have a Terran player bottom left, Protoss player top right. HuK does some interesting stuff this game that I thought would be really helpful to go over for all you Protoss lovers. So we're going to mainly follow him. First thing, it's a small detail, but his cloning on the minerals is really good. If you watch him, he not only sets different waypoints to the stacks that aren't occupied, but he doesn't mine the back three stacks, this guy, or this guy, until all of the front stacks are cloned. It's a tiny little thing, but it does get you more minerals faster. So, and minerals are more important in the beginning of the game than they are at the end of the game. What's an extra 50 minerals when you have 3,000, or when you're gaining a lot and you have expansions, compared to when you have very little? So, marginal resources are more valuable at the beginning, which is why that's super awesome to do. Our Marine King, our Terran player, he's a great player. He's going to do some interesting stuff, but ultimately HuK is going to be too much for him to handle. HuK's going to start out with a little bit of harassment here with this probe, get some intel, bother some of the Terran player's units. Meanwhile, he has a gate dropped. He's just now dropping his gas at a minute 58. And yeah, I really want to get to the micro, so I'm going to speed this up a bit, show you what he does. So he comes in here, he's going to piss off this guy, this poor SCV. He's not messing with anybody, but HuK's going to go in there and mess with them. But that's always a really good thing to do, just to get the other player interested in your dude in your base. Now he does this, which I find really interesting. He drops a pylon here just so he knows that this first Marine's going to be occupied with something. But he does cancel it, so it's a $25 investment just to get that information and to know, again, that first Marine's going to be occupied. The SCV did just get hurt by HuK's units, and now he goes and finishes the job and explodes them. Pretty nasty explosion there. He's going to keep one probe here just to get some information. Now he's going to move him closer to the base. I really like how HuK doesn't lose this probe for quite some time. He almost loses him here, but he doesn't lose him. This guy does have one kill. He's a total badass, and he's going to get a lot of information. So this might be the player of the game, in my opinion, this guy right here, this Disciple. So HuK's got a stalker out on the field. Now he's making some sentries. And what he does that I think is really important is he goes straight for an observer. This is what every Protoss player should do. It's really good for information, and it's going to help his stalkers. So now his stalker sees this group of Marines coming and Marauders coming, so he's going to go back, build up his army, and this is where the micro comes in. So I'm going to play it on regular speed. This is some of the best micro I've seen from the Protoss player. I really like it. First thing he does is he knows what's going on here. He's watching. He locks off the SCV just in order high enough to where these guys go after the high ground kill because they have vision, but then once he kills that SCV they lose high ground. He traps them in and he's able to kill off all those units without getting any damage on his units. So let's watch that one more time. Okay, so here comes the Terran army. The SCV is going to get high ground vision just enough, and then boom, he locks them off. These guys commit to that high ground vision, but little do they know the SCV is about to get smashed, and then boom, he can trap them in there so they can die a horrible death right as this Immortal comes out just in time to get 2 kills. That stalker has 2 kills, that stalker has 3 kills, Sentry has 1 kill, and that Sentry has 3 kills. So those guys are all pretty badass. Now they're going to go back and do some harassment at the Terran base, and maybe even go for an all-in push, but as you'll see, HuK's pretty smart. If we want to look at the units lost tab, right now Terran players lost 13, HuK's lost 1, and I believe that 1 was in fact that probe, that the player of the game probe. He ended up he got capped. So now HuK's going to be really smart. This observer gives him high ground vision. He's not going to lose this Immortal. He's going to let the shield build back up. So he's very good at micro with his units. He doesn't really lose many units ever. And when he does, it's a great trade-off. Right now he's lost 2 units versus 22. And that was 1 century he lost, which I'm sure he didn't do on purpose. So now he's just going to be a total pain in the ass. He is going to go ahead and drop his expansion here in a second, which is going to secure. He's going to secure the macro game and just take it slow. There's no reason to walk into this army right now. Just to keep him in his base, to keep him occupied, and to continue to keep him distracted with property damage. So now, one thing I do like what HuK does is eventually Marine King's gonna realize he needs to take out this observer because this observer is letting him give him that high ground vision. So HuK makes a backup, like he's anticipating this guy getting taken out, because if he scans right here, the Marines will take him out. So I like how HuK prepares for that, goes ahead and gets his second observer, sends him over, just in case he does lose one, to go ahead and force 2 scans, because that's 50 energy each time. So it looks like we got like a bit of an all-in here. We got SCVs coming to try to help, but HuK's a pretty smart player. He's gonna decide, look, I know I got my base almost up. Maybe I should just do a little more harass and then, not go all the way in. I think he may be able to take that all in right now and end the game. But as you'll see, he decides it's better for him to play it slow and steady and safe and retreat. So it would have been close. He may have lost. HuK's much better than me, so I'm going to trust his judgment on that. But he knows that he has this base down. He knows that the Terran player doesn't, so he can go ahead and the Terran player did just kill one of his observers, so he did just do a scan, which is why it's so good that he had that other one. He still has a proxy pylon over here, so he can still warp in units towards the base. We have the Terran player going to get some information with this floating factory here. Again, that's great for Terrans to do. Factories are super strong, and a lot of times if you know you're not going to be using them, you just need them, for whatever reason, you just need them to get a starport. So you might just use this for some scouting purposes and to see that high ground. HuK's going to be following this group with a observer, always a good strategy, just to know where your opponent's at, to know where his force is at. Meanwhile, he's going to be warping in more units. He has a good mix in his army here for Protoss, and why this is important, the Zealots don't have charge yet, but they take a lot of damage. So you want these guys in your front line. They're basically like going to be sacrifices so that the stalkers don't get killed. So again, the factory's going to go down eventually, but it is going to serve its purpose. It's going to get, kind of a wasted factory in this game, but it's going to get a little bit of high ground vision for him for a second, and a little bit of scouting. This game, at this moment, it's pretty much over. HuK uses some great force fields to split up the army. You always want to split up Terran armies so you can fight and kill off units for sure, so they can't micro to the back of the group once they're hurt. At this point, yeah, HuK's got the clear advantage. He knows he still has his pylon down here, which tells him that the expansion hasn't been dropped yet from Terran, so he knows he's milking this macro advantage, which at any minute that's going to lead to an overwhelmingly superior army. If we look at the units lost tab, 24 to 68, he did just snag one more stalker there in that exchange, but it's just not going to be enough. This game's going to go to HuK. He's got the army to do it. Marine King's going to make one final push. Meanwhile, HuK is transferring in some zealots here, and they're just raping some humans. Those guys are total badasses. Zealots are kind of like predators, if you think about it. Zerg are kind of like the aliens from Alien, and Protoss are kind of like predators. Zealots in particular, they got these sweet dreadlocks dangling back. And again, they're not going to do any kills. Those guys are basically not doing any kills, but look, they're attracting all that fire from the Terran army. So that's why Zealots are so huge to have in your front line. That's why he's going to continually, well, at this point the game's over, but you'll notice that he will continually warp in Zealots just for that reason. You don't want to lose your Stalkers, you don't want to lose your Immortals. They have really great attacking power, so that's it. And that was the game. Please subscribe if you like it. In my analysis, I'll try to always add some strategy and some help for beginners. So, yeah. Cheers.